No.
Welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast.
Hello and welcome to the My Haunt Life podcast. I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
And Russell, we just finished another 16 shows at Fringe.
Yes, we did.
Some of them we both did, and some of them I finally was able to do that you had done before, and vice versa.
Yep,
So
I caught on a few that you had recommended to me, and I'm really happy about that.
yeah, so we're evening out. And this is technically the third week, but really the second official week because of that preview week. So I guess I'll go first. I started off my week with Bloody Awful. And Bloody Awful is 2 shows for the price of 1. So there's 2 shows, and each one is about a half hour. And they're both just dark comedies with horror, definite horror in it as well.
Cool.
They're so fun. The first one is called The Callback. And for any horror fans or any Stephen King fans, you will probably relate this one to Misery. It's the story of a girl who doesn't get a call back to an audition. And you can imagine what happens, especially with that Misery reference. But the great thing about this one was the girl, she's so happily psychotic.
Okay.
And I know you know that type,
Yes.
because you've seen them in movies where, like, okay, yeah, and then I went this, but what about this? But they're so cheery and upbeat, but they're psychotic.
Yeah, and I may or may not have dated one in my past.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that back, Mike.
Yeah, you're the one who brought it up. This one was really fun. And the back and forth between the 2 characters, Molly and Mr. Ashford, it's so funny. And it gets to a point, we're talking about character emotions and stuff like that. Thanks a lot, Russell. But even though she's in the wrong, you start to care for her and want her to win.
Wow.
Because the director, who's Mr. Ashford, is just kind of like, the more he talks, the more it's like, I don't like this guy. You're kind of deserving what you get, even though he's really not doing anything wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, so anything else I say is probably going to be a spoiler, so I'll just leave it at that, but it's definite fun. The next show, this was so good. This one's called The Slaughterhouse, and I think I was ecstatic when I was telling you about this one, because this should be made into some sort of sitcom, because it's so awesome. And it's the story of Kurt. And Kurt gets an apartment with 3 other roommates. Those 3 other roommates are serial killers. And the only reason they let him move in was because they thought he was a serial killer.
The sitcom possibilities of that are endless.
I know it, and they kind of play it like a sitcom, because it's just there's everyday problems that you and I have. Like, oh, we have a clog in the sink. But when you add 3 serial killers, that clog is something different, for example, and it's just it's just so much fun, and they mix the horror with the comedy, and it's perfect. And it's definitely more of a comedy than a horror play, but man, and then the hijinks really get going when Kurt's girlfriend comes to visit. So right there, it's like, and the great thing is there's one actor, and he plays a Russian, and he's a serial killer, and the things he says in his accent are so good, especially when he has a one-on-one conversation with the girlfriend, and they just talk about relationships and feelings, but her feelings are about a man he loves or she loves, but everything he's saying is about killing. And it's like, that, and it makes it that much more funny.
I'm looking forward to this. Actually, I do have a ticket for this later this week, Mike.
Yeah, I'm excited. You're going to like it a lot.
Just from your description the other night, I saw you, I think, right after you left this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you were very happy and were excited about this. So I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I really hope that somehow this gets reworked and extended into like a full thing.
Oh, the premise sounds like it could completely be a full-length play.
Oh, yeah, with different episodes. or something. I don't know. Do plays have episodes? Like a part two? I don't know. I'm new to
Plays
this
have
world, man.
sequels.
There you go. There can be sequels. The Slaughterhouse Part 2.
The Kentucky Cycle. Horton Foote has been writing cycles of plays that go on forever about his family. So yeah, you can definitely do that.
Nice. I hope this happens.
That is the first Horton Foote reference we have ever had on My Haunt Life.
Oh, as long as he's got two of them.
So, wow.
Anyways, Bloody Awful. If you're into horror comedy, definitely check it out. And then later that night, I finally got to see The Rise and Fall of Dracula.
Yes.
Because I was originally supposed to see it a week prior, but I had a rise and fall of my own.
Really?
The puns don't stop.
Your scooter experiment?
Yes.
The scooter experience?
It was immersive.
It sounds like it. So
It was site specific too.
so is your scooter dead?
I think I'm not going to get it fixed and sell it as is.
The scooter died.
Because it's got like 40,000 miles on it. So, I mean,
Okay.
how many more miles can you put on a Vespa?
Okay. I don't know.
You know?
I've never Vespa'd.
Yeah. It's probably for the better.
Anyway, back to the Rise and
Yeah.
Fall of Dracula.
So yeah, so I finally got to see it, and you talked about this last week, and it's everything that you said. It was great, and you know the real not real, but the metal knives, and it makes such a difference when in those fight scenes when it hits the floor, and you're like, oh man, this is real.
Yeah, there's it's. I was trying not to be, too on the nose because I knew you were going to go see it. But yeah, there's battle sequences and there's fights and they're using weapons that you in such an intimate space. Like it amps up the threat level that you feel by being close to someone who's literally fighting for their lives. It's an immersive piece that the audience quite often surrounds the actors, very, very close quarters.
Yeah, and I don't really have too much more to add than you did because we just
Did you like the mix of genres? The fact that it's like there's dance, there's straight drama, there's sort of balletic, acrobatic, action sequences. It's like because that was one of the things that I enjoyed about it.
Yeah, I'm beginning to appreciate that stuff more, just because I'm seeing it more,
Right.
and I'm exposed to it. So yeah, I mean, it's nice, and but of course, I'm gonna like the fight scenes better.
Yeah. And what did you think of having Dracula as a female lead?
It doesn't matter to me. I mean, this is like 120 years old, this story.
Oh, yeah.
So of course you have to change things. You have to update things. You have to make it different in order to get people to want to see it. So the fact that it's a female Dracula, like it doesn't matter to me.
The one thing that it did for me is I thought it made the relationship between her when she finally gets a friend, that relationship, what develops in that relationship, I thought it made it much more hurtful because it was because there is no romantic entanglement there. It's more of a betrayal of a confidant than it is, like a romantic betrayal. So I thought that was like, oh, that's really painful. If a friend did that to me, I would be really, really hurt. And it obviously runs through the rest of the show. The ramifications of that betrayal have dire consequences for numerous people. So yeah, I liked this show. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Yeah, the only thing I had an issue with is at times, because this is an immersive piece and you're walking through Stephanie Furie's studios, whenever they had hallway scenes, it was hard to see what the action happening.
It's a narrow hallway.
Yeah, and Noah was with me, and there was another person behind him. The second time we do that, they were just hanging back in that other room because they couldn't get a space to see. So it wasn't a huge issue because like 90% of the show was fine. But just like those couple scenes, it's like, ooh, there might be too many people, but I don't know.
That's interesting. The night that I saw it, I think our audience became aware of that and I think self-policed itself.
Oh, cool.
So, because there was at one time when I remember I was standing opposite a doorway, and a woman literally reached out and touched another patron and pulled her into the room.
Oh, wow.
And like, no, we're making room for you.
That's cool.
Because there was someone out in the hallway, and I was like, oh, that's interesting that they didn't come in, they didn't make it all the way in before the scene started. But no, I do like this show, but I agree with you. That hallway is brutal sometimes on the sightlines.
the next thing I did, and I'm doing all of these before you even done one this week.
Yeah,
That's
that's
crazy.
true. Yeah, I think you had a night before me.
Yeah. I went to see Emergency Operation, and this is another one that is just this was just great. It's another dark comedy,
Okay.
and it's the premise of it is amazing, and I think it definitely works for everybody because we've all been in this spot before. The premise is a girl cheats on her boyfriend, and he's so heartbroken that he goes and has an emergency operation uh, to
Okay.
fix his heart.
Hence the name of the show,
That's
Emergency Operations.
why I said it, Russell.
Oh, come on. I was trying to turn that into a joke. No support from the other side. Okay. All right. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue.
Where's that shaking my head sound effects?
Okay. All right.
So he gets his heart broken, and then he goes to the doctor to have this operation to remove the hurt from his heart.
I
And
wish that were possible.
yeah, and when he comes out, it's kind of like um, he had like a heart lobotomy in a way.
Ooh.
So he comes out, he's happy and cheerful, and it really hits home, man, because everyone has had their heart broken, and everybody wishes it could be that easy to fix it.
Yeah.
And it's just there's so many fun jokes in this show. Um, like asking if his insurance will pay for it, like things like that. There was another person in the waiting room that has a physical gag that pays off, and it's awesome.
Cool.
It's so funny. But it's one of those shows that it just makes you reflect about certain points in your life, because I think some people can relate to Adam, who had his heart broken, and some could relate to Kelsey, who broke his heart by kissing another guy. And when you see it happen from the outside looking in and think about how you might have been in that spot before, it gets to you.
After I talked to you about this, because you saw this, I think the same day that you saw, or the day after you saw the other horror comedy. Um, I think I'm going to try to fit this in this week. I was looking at the schedule earlier today, and I think I can.
Oh, awesome.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I'm going to do my best to make it.
Yeah, I think you'll like it a lot.
Yeah, it sounds like I would.
And another thing I want to point out are the songs in between set changes. Each
Okay.
each song seems to be part of a Broken Heart mixtape.
Oh my.
They're all themed and they're all perfect,
Oh, that's funny.
and it's great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so you should definitely check this out because
All right.
it's awesome.
Cool. And then we actually we met up after that show, right?
Yeah,
And we saw a play called A Void.
and it's funny because for me, I think I joked about this to you. That night had a theme for me, and it was about trying to fix your problems by not confronting them and dealing with outside resources to fix them.
Wow, because that is exactly what A Void is about. That's for sure. In a very, very, very outlandish and funny way. A Void, this was one that you pointed me toward, Mike, because I hadn't noticed it yet in the Fringe Guide, and you said you were going, so I joined you. And the thing about this for me is it's a story of two sisters who go to a service that basically will offer to cryogenically freeze you for a chosen period of time.
Right. It's instead of killing yourself, you can
Yes.
freeze yourself. So basically, they don't want you to kill yourself. Obviously, they want you to buy their service.
Yes.
But you can freeze yourself until all of your problems pass, and because suicide is permanent.
And some of the options that come up during the show I thought were hysterically funny. Whether it's a 6-month plan or a year plan, how soft is the pillow that you'll be resting on, whether or not certain memories will, if you have dreams, can they be stored, and if so, what's the storage cost? All of that I thought was just like really, really humorous.
Yeah.
But the thing that I loved about this, Mike, the relationship between the two sisters, so completely uncomfortably painful and honest.
Yeah.
Like this, I think I said it to you that night, was I felt like we were overhearing something we were not supposed to overhear, because the brutal honesty that comes out between like what you've done to me in the past. No, you did that to me. Oh wait, I thought you were this place of your life and you lied, and like all of this comes out because one sister feels that she's about to lose the other sister for a long period of time. So it becomes like this last chance to get in the digs. And man, the two performers, the two actresses who were named Mary Holland and Rachel Sondag, man, they nailed this relationship performance wise. It was so passive aggressive-y, and it's like literally every glance, every hand gesture seemed to reveal like years of pent-up frustration. I loved watching the two of them.
Yeah, and you by the end of the show, you realize just how well they know each other.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and that, yeah, yes. We can't say any more because that would definitely be a spoiler, but wow, you do learn a lot.
But it makes you wonder. I mean, if, with the way technology is going right now, I don't not see this happening at some point.
It's possible.
Like a service that handles this kind of stuff. It's like instead of suicide, you can freeze yourself. Like,
I couldn't ever see myself contemplating saying yes to that.
well, you can't handle the cold.
Okay.
But no, but in all seriousness, I bet this could happen at some point.
It's creepy to think, but yes, you're probably right.
And then you saw something that was named after one of your idols, right?
Oh, I saw a show called Too Many Hitlers, or The Decoy Decameron.
I'm just kidding. Hitler's not one of Russell's idols. Please don't take that serious.
Send the hate mail to mike@myhotlaugh.com.
He's your idol.
No, he's not. This is, I love the premise for this show, and the premise is, and I believe this is based in reality, that there were physical decoys for Hitler. And I know other leaders of the world have done this, where they will send out a body double or something for fear of assassination attempts or something. So the idea behind the show is, near the end of the war, all of the decoys, all of the people who've been imitating Hitler, all end up in the same room together.
Nice.
So hilarity ensues, basically. And you have part of them claiming, because their job is to claim that they are always Hitler. So some of them never let go of the ruse of, no, I'm Hitler. Really, I'm Hitler. No, trust me, I'm Hitler. You have a lot of that going on with a few of them.
I really hope no one takes that part and it comes back to haunt you later in life.
And then some of the other ones are like, oh, come on, this was a job. It was an acting gig. It was just something I did. They called me. I said, yes, whatever. It's like, look, we're going to move on to something. The war's ending. Like there's other opportunities. Let's get out of here. So that mix becomes so over the top farce that it really works well. I mean, I thought, and also, I'm going to say the name Mel Brooks came to mind at one point, but Mel Brooks is so tied to, Springtime for Hitler that that's not the connection I made. Just the tone of this piece, I brought to my mind Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner.
Okay.
Because, classic comedy. And I think that's part of my problem with it. Kudos to the cast for throwing themselves at it. It's really over the top energy. There's some really, really funny, rich stuff here. But as farce goes, I thought that it was all one note, and it didn't really escalate to something. And the final moments of this show could have been really sort of haunting and touching, but they don't go there because it's all sort of the same note. They don't build to that. It's a minor quibble. But, I thought the premise had even more comedy potential if they'd either played it completely sincere, which would have been a way to really amp up the ridiculousness of it. But like I said, it's a minor quibble. Just the premise itself carries so much comedy gold in it that this was really fun. I just wish it had built to something more by the end of it. But still, I would recommend, if you want goofy comedy, this ranks in that category of The Fringe, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
I'm gonna see if I can make this one because this was on my list originally,
Yeah.
but just haven't been able to fit it in.
Yeah, it's like I said, I think the silliness of it works very, very well. I just wish that there would have been more heart to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, but still very funny. Just the premise of it is just so funny.
And then you went to see something that I saw and texted you immediately after I saw it saying, you need to see this.
Charlatan, Secrets of the Victorian Psychics. This was so much fun. And it's so, yeah, like we talked about this on the last podcast, and I think you gave the perfect description. It's this mixture of lecture with magic, with psychology, with some hypnosis. It was a really, really I just really loved. I was. This is one of those Fringe shows that it ended, and I was actually sad because I wanted it to be longer.
I know exactly what you mean
Yeah,
because I felt the same way.
I absolutely wanted more from this guy as far as information, and it's this guy, Dr. Mark Gasson, who comes out and basically says, "Hey, let's talk about this stuff that was manipulating people, and how did it or originate, and like what were the tricks of the trade." And even though he doesn't really reveal a lot of the tricks of the trade, he does point to the psychology of the tricks of the trade and how you can be manipulated. Even to this day, advertising manipulates us. We're manipulated every day in this world. So just him pointing to this made me more aware of stuff like images. And I thought it was interesting because when we paired notes, we were both chosen from the audience
For
to
the
do
same
the same
thing.
thing, which was a process of judging people by looks alone and a series of photographs that he had, which leads to a very interesting observation about how we judge people on face value.
Well, it's funny too because if going along with this show, we could play into it and be like, "Oh my God, he knew there was a connection with you because of me, and that's why he picked you."
Well, a Victorian age psychic, if they were aware of a podcast that we shared together, they absolutely would have used that
A
information.
podcast in the Victorian age. Really?
Victorian styles and etiquette with Mike and Russell.
The podcast is just Morse code on a wire.
Yeah, it takes forever to download, but man, is it really good.
Anyways. But yeah, I agree with everything you said, and I really hope that he does more shows. Or,
Absolutely.
I mean, even though it was an hour long, it felt like it was 15 minutes. So,
It went by really fast. It really feels that way. I agree.
and that only happens when you're really interested and engaged. So, kudos
Right.
to you.
That was the end of my evening, and the next day I got up and I went to see something which I'd been really looking forward to, The Second Coming of Klaus Kinski. And one of the reasons that I really was looking forward to this is I'd heard that the performance was good. Actually, that's a lie. I'd heard the performance was amazing by an actor named Andrew Perez, who I encountered briefly in the Tension Experience's Ascension last year, which was the live show. And I encountered him a couple of different scenes my first time through that immersive piece. He was so intense, and it really struck me, and it became one of my favorite moments from my first show, even though we shared like 5 or 6 sentences together, Mike. That was it.
Yeah.
This guy left that kind of a mark on me. And so when I heard that he was going to do a show about Klaus Kinski, I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm not that familiar with Klaus Kinski, and I would like to say that you don't have to be extremely familiar with the work of Klaus Kinski to see this show, because the show is actually about a man wrestling with all the demons of life, everything from creative urges, from sexual to dealing with everyday life, but he lives everything in such a passionate manner that it's all consuming. So this performance is completely physical and completely his vocal characterization. If you've ever heard Kinski speak, he nails it. And it is like this man is possessed by Klaus Kinski. And it's like watching Klaus Kinski having a fever dream or a nightmare and fighting his way through his entire life in 1 hour. It is incredibly intense. It is wonderful to witness this performance. It's in ways terrifying, because it is so freaking intense.
That's awesome. I don't know if I can make it to this one. I'm trying to fit it in, but
This is the first time I've seen standing ovations at Fringe. The audience was so enthusiastic at the performance I went to, they demanded a second curtain call.
wow.
Just as an audience, we wouldn't stop applauding until he came back out on stage a second time. We did not accept a single curtain call. And that was unanimous in the audience. You could feel it, and it was just, it was that just like he made us passionate about the passion of the show, if that makes any sense. This is hands down the most intense thing I've seen. Intensity wise, this is up there with Normal,
Oh, wow.
but completely different subject matter, obviously.
Of course.
But I mean, it's that intense. Like, yeah, it just, I cannot praise Andrew Perez's performance enough. And the show is fascinating because you're watching a man wrestle with demons, and he wrestles hard. He does not go down without a fight. And in some cases, I think he wins.
I mean, just based on the feedback of everybody I know that has seen this, this has got to have an extension.
Oh, I hope so. I hope so.
Well, that's awesome, man. And did that close out your night?
No, that was the beginning of my following day.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That was just the beginning.
Hold on.
Wow. I was exhausted 1 hour into my day after that. So, and then I met up with you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you did.
Oh, I thought you were going to take that away.
No, I know. That's why I didn't.
Okay.
We met up and went to another magic show, and this one is called The New Bad Boys of Magic. And about halfway through this show, Russell, I leaned over to you and said something. And watching the show, I leaned over and I told Russell, like, dude, this is like if you and I did magic. Because one guy is the perverted, swearing guy, and the other guy is a nice guy and, in a suit with, feelings and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just the combination of the two of them together was so great.
Yeah, this was, they make quite the team. I thoroughly enjoyed this show. The two men in the show are Daniel Donahue and Eric Siegel, and their comedy and magic chops both are just top notch.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things that we talked about as soon as we got out is like the skill for there's a card show, I guess you would call it, that they do.
It becomes a show within a show, basically.
Yeah. And the skill used to do what they did. I mean, every magician has a ton of skill, don't get me wrong, but there was so much going on and happening that to be able to coordinate everything that was going on at that time to make it work, it was just like it's constantly, how do they do that?
Yeah, they tell a story. The story of the entire show, The New Bad Boys of Magic, you start with a magic show and it gets interrupted, and then you find out that it actually is becoming a reunion between two guys who used to work together, but one of them disappointed the other greatly, and they split.
Yeah, and he found life on the streets and drugs and hookers and alcohol and all of that stuff. Where
And that was a character you related to, right?
of course,
Okay, all right.
even though I'm straight edge and I've never touched that stuff.
Yep,
But
I know
whatever. And then the other one went his way and started doing children's parties. And
Lots and lots of children's parties, it sounds like.
and then they get reunited at this show, and we're not going to say how, but they get reunited. And I don't know, is
They
there
kind of have to make it work.
yeah, for our sake,
Yes.
which was nice of them.
Yeah, and I agree, Mike. That the story they tell in the middle, I respect card magic, but it's not my favorite type of magic. I was watching what they were doing, I was amazed at like how many things are they going to introduce to this routine and keep it all on track. It was so impressive. And there's a couple of other things. They do something near the end that we talked about afterwards, and we were constantly trying to figure it out because it's so subtle. And it's one of those magic tricks where you start the magic trick and you think you know what's going on, and then 5 minutes later they do a reveal. It's like, holy crap, I didn't even see that coming. Like there's several of those moments in this show. I really enjoyed this show.
Yeah, and this is an adults only magic show. So if
Yes.
you're an adult and into magic, but you think that some of them are too sweet or nice or don't have that edge, this is the one for you. There's swearing, there's dick jokes, there's alcohol that you can drink, because that ties into one of the illusions.
Yes.
Definitely check these guys out. They're funny. And one of the I don't know if you read the description on the Fringe website, but it said you can see these guys at the Magic Castle in line.
Yes.
And it's just that's such a perfect description of the show.
Yeah, this
But
was a lot of fun.
after that show, Russell, we saw a show called Blamed.
And I blame you for my luck.
Oh my God, no.
Because
Dude.
I know that was a bad joke.
No, just no, you're cut off for 5 minutes.
I don't pull that off as well as you. No, I was not. What I meant is I was not intending on seeing this show, and I went with you, and I was able to pick up a ticket.
And if you had seen this show and told me what it entailed, I would have skipped this show in a second, because everything that you would describe in this show, I would not be into. With that being said, this is the most impressive show that I've seen at Fringe.
Absolutely.
Like, blown away. And by that silence, that's us being speechless.
Yeah, I am so lucky that I just went with you to that theater and picked up a ticket for this. And it's funny because the description is actually darker than the show would lead you to believe it should be.
Right, which is why I was interested in
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. And the story of the show is it's storytelling that doesn't even do it justice. You are witness to stories unfolding from mythology, from literature, from religion, and it's all stories where women have been blamed.
Right. So there's Eve from the famous Adam and Eve that you might know of. There's Lilith and La Llorona.
Joan of Arc,
Yep. Marie Antoinette.
Pandora.
That's all I can remember.
Yeah, there's and it just wow, it's almost impossible to describe. Right from the beginning, you walk in and the cast is already on stage, and this is a very large cast of performers. The majority are women. There's a live band playing. The live band, by the way, is wonderful and perfectly suits the mood of this piece, and elevates it. There's a lot of dance. There's puppetry. There's pantomime. There's singing. There's storytelling. There are so many techniques present in this piece, and they all work seamlessly together. You know, I am so frustrated right now because I want to make this sound better than I am making it sound because I liked this show so much.
I know exactly how you feel. That's how I was when I was trying to write about it as well. You know, there's so much good, and there's so many different things that they're doing that complement one another.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the large cast, and every cast member had their time to shine.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be reading a story or whether it be singing or dancing or puppetry or playing guitar at one point. And there was so much talent on that stage, man. Ridiculous amounts of talent.
Yeah. And one thing I also want to point to is this is not the story of women being blamed and the ill that they have brought into the world. It's pointing out how these stories are stuff that we've heard, and we sometimes don't think to ponder the ramifications for the characters of the story, of the women. And the way this is presented, it's presented as storytelling. So this show, from the beginning, is about not embracing the negativity of what we have heard for years. It's about embracing the power of women to come together and create something. Because every piece is welcomed with encouragement and acknowledgement of the story and acknowledgement of the pain, but also of the power of what it means to come together to tell a story in the beginning. Like, this is powerful stuff. This company is wonderful, and I don't know what else to say other than this is for me, the biggest surprise of this year's Fringe Festival, and absolutely one of the most delightful, wonderful things I have seen.
I 100% agree. One more thing I want to point out is because there's so many cast members on stage, there were dance routines where they have to weave in and out of people, and it was done seamlessly. And when we left, I mentioned to you, like, if this company enters the immersive arena, Los Angeles is in for a treat and a half,
Oh, yeah.
because the things that they were able to do just as proscenium, if those cast members were audience members and that was happening around them, like, that's huge. Like, that would be incredible to see.
Since you have been talking about the company, Mike, I know you have it in front of you. What is the actual name of the theater company?
It's La Habra Theater Guild, and I am going to keep an eye out for anything that they do in the future, because after this show and what I saw and experienced, like, I'm going to see whatever they do next.
Yeah, I agree. And I'd like to do an anecdotal thing here. During the show, there was obviously a married couple, how do I put this politely, upwards in their years. During the middle of the show, the woman leaned over and placed her head on the shoulder of her husband, and he reached over and he put his arm around her, and they embraced in the middle of this show because of the feeling coming from the stage. And we were not sitting together; we were sitting in different places.
Yes, thank
Mike.
God now.
So I looked over to you because I was wondering if there was any way you could notice like the effect that it was having. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a couple sitting next to you. They were embracing
Okay.
at the same time, but they were off to your right. The way you were facing the stage, your focus probably wasn't over there.
Yeah.
But I looked around and went like, there's literally people in this audience embracing each other because of the feeling that this production is inspiring in this audience. Dude, and that was the middle of the show.
It's an incredible thing.
Yeah, the power behind this was wonderful.
Thank you, Fringe.
Yeah, thank you, Fringe. Thank you, La Habra Theater Guild, for this gift.
And then we went from that to seeing a show about sex trafficking people, and yeah.
Programming, sometimes it happens that way.
We saw Christina Evans in Toys, and it was a metaphorical look at the sex trafficking industry through the use of, or not the use of, but she plays like a Barbie doll at first, and then
A toy.
yeah, then you understand what is really going on.
It's a really odd device, and when the show started, I just, it took me a moment to get into it because of the oddity that I was witnessing. But wow, is this powerful.
Yeah, and this is definitely probably the creepiest show we've seen at Fringe.
Yeah, it does have a creepiness factor that is, I want to say that this is not exploitative in any way, even though it represents sex trafficking and the damage that it can do to a person. It's not exploitative. It's mainly, I guess, a dance performance is how you would list this, a dance performance art piece. Very disturbing, very creepy, and almost silent. There are some surreal images on film that are used in the show, and there is a portion in the middle of the show, Mike, that when she began to vocalize, that was the moment for me that was just so horrifying.
Yeah, the ending dance number that happened
Oh.
over and over and over again, and
This is really disturbing work, and short and effective. This show is under 30 minutes,
right.
and it doesn't need to be any longer. It makes its point with an amazing amount of grace and eloquence.
Yeah, you start seeing what her everyday life is in a way. At least to me, and it's like lather, rinse, repeat.
Ooh.
Here you go.
Yeah, this is disturbing territory. And Christina Evans, the creator and performer of this, she's created something very unique. And at the end of the show, they give you information concerning how you can actually make a difference with donations or time or effort. They give that information at the end of the show of how individuals who see the show can make a difference in this issue in the world.
Yeah, and do you ever put shows together to make a story out of two different shows?
I don't think I've done that this year, but yes, I understand what you mean.
Because sometimes I'll do that, and I was thinking if you saw this and then Apartment 8, like that could almost Apartment 8 could almost be a sequel to this.
Oh, wow.
And that would ruin your night.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And hey, Emergency Operation could be the first one.
Wow. Yeah, the
Like
night of broken, damaged hearts.
Yeah. It's good to cry every once in a while, right?
Apparently. After that really heavy subject matter, Mike, I went and saw something which you had already seen. Dark Arts.
Nice.
So, I know that you liked this show.
Mm-hmm.
I think I had a different reaction to you. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I think I had a different reaction to this show than you did. I think it hit me in a very different level. I liked the show. I think the cast is really strong here. But my reaction was I thought this was really uncomfortable to watch.
Really?
Yeah, and it's because of, to use the politically correct term, our current social climate. This is the story of a firm, a company whose reputation is that they can get you or your company out of any crisis that has been created or has happened. So they're spin doctors. They will take a situation that is going negatively and somehow crush your competition and put you back on top wherever that is for you. So watching this, the way people manipulate each other and the way people manipulate facts in this show to make a point or to achieve a goal, the way they manipulate the social media, the way they manipulate, those pesky little things called facts. This was so uncomfortable for me because it just felt too real.
Right. Well, it's probably happening.
Oh, I'm sure it's happening. This is a highly fictionalized story that gets wrapped up in an hour, but this sort of manipulation of what we think and how we think it and how ideas are planted in our society, all of that's so topical right now and has been for the last 2 years or so. This thing is really hitting a nerve with me. And I really, really felt creepy and uncomfortable watching these people. However, when they get going and the verbal warfare starts and they start throwing down and no, this is the way this is going to play. This is the way this is going to be manipulated. We're going to spin it this way and you're going down. All of those conversations, Mike, holy crap, were they just fun and juicy. And it was oh yeah. I kind of felt like I was watching a wrestling match a couple of times. It's yeah, take him down, take him down. Yeah, it was just, it's such a weird feeling to walk on the street and yeah, that was funny. And it made me realize that real life is not really fun right now in certain ways. So I think that's really a high compliment, actually.
If that's how you want to spin it.
Yes, that is how I want to spin my response to the show, is that it was a very positive thing, because it was. And again, I think the entire cast is strong here. And, it's funny, they hit stereotypes without being stereotypes, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
The politician you are going to hate by the end, and oops, I guess it was a little mild spoiler there, but the government agents or employees who are just there for their job title and they really don't care that much. And whoever gets trampled or bulldozed over in the process doesn't matter. So all of that really rang with a really creepy vibe for me. And I think that is where the comedy comes from. And there's some verbal sparring in this thing that is really fun to listen to. And there's actually a heartfelt story buried underneath it, too.
Which was the main point of it.
I got that. I got that there was a whole relationship story going on, too. But I just reacted heavily to everything that was around it. So yes, I do recommend Dark Arts. Now, and on that same night, you saw something which I'm really curious to hear about, because I saw it in the Fringe Guide, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it.
Yeah, I saw Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay. The tale of Bonnie and Clyde, I assume?
Yeah, and what this was, it was their last 12 hours or last day or so,
Oh, wow.
before their car got shot up. And you were at their home, or the place they're staying at least, and it's just Bonnie and Clyde having conversations about everything that's going on, and how Bonnie is yearning for love, and Clyde is kind of like, whatever, and you can tell that they love each other, and Bonnie just wants some affection, but Clyde is more worried about eating his beans and peaches, or getting mad at the copycats, the people that got murdered by another gang that they said were done by Bonnie and Clyde.
Right.
And it was an interesting look. And the one thing I really liked about this show was towards the end of the show, they're still having this conversation, but then Clyde steps away and has a monologue describing the last few minutes of what happened.
Oh, wow.
And it's so powerful because you see Bonnie in the background, and she's, pretty and done up, and you have Clyde, and he's like, and then the first bullet came here, and then the second bullet hit me, and and it's just like, it makes you, I don't know, it makes you sad, even though they were criminals, and it's like you kind of want to root for them. I mean, a lot of people root for them. That's why they still live on to this day.
Right.
But hearing it from that actual point of view, like kind of like a ghost telling you it,
Right.
man, that worked.
Wow. I'm really curious about this.
Yeah, it was really, really good. Bonnie was played by Claire Bronchick, and Clyde was played by Joel Sutton, and both of these actors were so good in their roles. And I'm excited to see if they do something else, because it was a powerful performance by
Wow.
both of them.
Glad you enjoyed it.
Thanks. I'm glad I enjoyed it too.
Mm-hmm.
And then we met up again, and we saw another magic show.
Yes.
And we saw Name This Magic Show. And what's the premise of Name This Magic Show, Russell?
Well, Mike, Name This Magic Show is a competition between 4 magicians, or actually 3 magicians, and 1 magician is chosen each performance as an MC. And they have a very friendly competition, and the prize is they get to name the magic show.
And the money that was made that day.
Right, which the running joke was that it was tens of dollars. So, because it's such a small house. But packed, enthusiastic crowd when we saw this. Mike, you and I have seen 3 of these performers live before.
Yes.
Particularly Nick Paul.
We saw him last year at Fringe, who is silent. He does not speak.
Yes.
Which I'm going to make a joke about later.
Right.
So remember that.
Spoiling. That was a spoiler.
No, it's not.
That was a spoiler. You spoiled our own podcast.
How did I spoil it?
But you said that you were going to say a joke.
Because it's so subtle, people might not understand it's a joke.
Okay. All right. Yes, Nick Paul. We saw an entire show with him, with only music. He never speaks. It was a wonderful, beautiful routine that he did last year. It was really nice to see him, and also I know someone that you and I saw last year
As well. Yeah, Simon Cornell.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not a spoiler, because don't look at me like that. He won the night we won. It's in the past.
I wasn't
each
looking at you like spoiler. I was looking
Each
at you
show
because
is different, Russell.
So yes, Simon Cornell, who is amazing, and someone who that you and I were both aware of, named Handsome Jack, that I don't think either of us had ever seen perform live. Have you?
Correct.
Yeah,
No.
I hadn't seen him perform live either. I know who he is. And then it was emceed at our particular show by John Armstrong,
Who we talked about a couple shows ago.
who does have a show in the Fringe Festival of his own, and it's definitely worth checking out. This was a lot of fun.
It really was. It was like a sampler platter of magicians. You got to see something from everybody. Even though John Armstrong was the host, he would still do a few things to warm up the crowd. And then once the competition started, each magician would do their own trick. And then we got to vote on, I guess, an app that Simon Cornell made.
Yeah.
And that was another running joke.
Is there nothing that guy cannot do?
Seriously.
Yeesh. Wow.
And so what happens is when you vote, you have your phone and you go to a website and they update it with the names, and you can click on the names and that counts as a vote, and it's live tallied right in front of you. And whoever wins the first round gets to choose who goes first, second, and third the next round. And then that's the bigger performance.
Mm-hmm.
And if you win that round, you get to name the magic show, and then you win the whole thing.
Now, here's the thing that I loved about this, Mike, and you used the term sampler platter. That's the cool thing, is all of these guys have very different styles.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful of having the chance to see 4 really, really talented magicians, all of them different styles, working the same audience. It was so fun to see how they handled the crowd differently.
Oh, yeah. And it was that good that I would love to see each of their full shows as a competition.
Oh, yeah.
Like spend like 5 hours at a theater to see that happen. I would so be down for that.
I would so absolutely see this again. You know, if we could fit it in the schedule, I would see this again immediately.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun.
And then I do want to mention the last trick.
Oh, yeah.
Because once we had a winner, which was Simon Cornell, they did a trick under the name that he chose, which was, I think, 3.5 Men Fooled Penn and Teller.
Yes.
And because they were all on Fool Us on Penn and Teller, they split up. So there was 2 on each side. So they were doing the same trick. So it's not like you missed out.
Right.
And that trick
is mind-blowing.
So good.
It's one of those magical moments at a show where you literally have that moment of, I just witnessed something that is physically impossible to do.
That's every magic show ever, man.
No, I mean, but that was no, that is impossible because physically there is no way what I just saw can happen.
Right.
It defies the laws of nature. And I love those moments.
Yeah.
And that was a really strong one.
It was so good.
Yeah, this show is so much fun. If you enjoy magic, highly recommend this.
And now my Nick Paul joke.
Yes.
So they told us that they draw straws out back to see who gets to MC the show, because I guess no one wants to MC the show because then they are not in the running for the tens of dollars that they could win.
Right.
And we mentioned that Nick Paul does not speak.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens if Nick Paul draws the shortest straw and he's the MC? Mm-hmm. All right.
Okay. Good question.
I kind of actually want to see that happen.
Me too. I would love to see that happen.
Because I'm guessing he would have cue cards or something and just hold them up.
That would be awesome. As him doing the cue card stuff that he does, which is really humorous. It's just I really like him. He's such a charming entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, we went our separate ways at that point.
Thank God. We needed a break, man.
And you went and saw something which I think I have found a way to actually fit this into the rest of my schedule.
Oh,
Mike.
Awesome.
I think I figured this out, how to do this. And I'm curious to hear what you thought of it.
Oh, my God. I loved it so much.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things about Fringe that I've noticed this year is there's a lot of historical point of view type of things that I've seen. I just mentioned Bonnie and Clyde. And now this one, An Evening with John Wilkes Booth, same thing. I was so enthralled with this show. I'm comparing this to a show we saw last year called A Regular Little Houdini.
Which is probably my favorite show of last year.
Which was a one-man show, but the exhilaration he had, the powerful movements and the powerful speech he had, he captivated everyone in that theater. Steven Spiegel did the same thing as John Wilkes Booth. It was incredible. The same sort of energy. I am him right now. I am John Wilkes Booth. That's who I saw. I didn't see an actor. I saw him.
Wow.
It was that good. He told his side of the story. And I made a joke with you after I saw the show because we met up after this. And I said, have you ever seen a show where it's supposed to be about someone you're not supposed to like, but the acting is so good that you kind of like them?
Yeah.
That's what happened. We're all supposed to hate John Wilkes Booth because he shot Lincoln. Mm-hmm. But hearing his side of the story through this performance, I don't know, man. I might be a fan now.
Wow.
Because he went into it just, I'm doing this for my country. I'm standing up for what I believe in.
Right.
He didn't see it as as a murder. He saw it as a necessity. And, and it's really interesting because he would talk about his family and a family of actors and how he was an actor as well. And just the kind of like the going back and forth between family and the things that were happening in the States at the time. And
This sounds fascinating.
it really was. Like, I think you're really going to enjoy this.
Cool.
And I learned a fun fact. Ford's Theater used to be a church.
Wow. I don't think I knew that.
I didn't know that either. I don't know much, though, so it's easy to say that.
I
for
think
me.
you know a lot. And then we lightened the mood a bit.
Yes, for something I was so excited to see.
That's interesting because actually, I got to admit, I was just curious. I wasn't
What?
excited.
Oh
I
my,
was
come on.
curious. Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
We saw Airplane Live, which
Mm-hmm.
was it was a stage performance of the movie Airplane. And if you've never seen Airplane, pause this right now and go watch it.
Yeah, seriously.
Because it's one of the greatest parody movies of all time. And what Airplane Live is almost a Rocky Horror Picture Show type of feel.
Right.
Where the audience comes and they encourage you to shout out the lines if you know them, because there's a ton of memorable lines.
Yes. So the reason I said I didn't have quite the excitement that you did is I wasn't sure going into this. I had the question in my head of why would you stage the movie Airplane live on stage? It just didn't.
Why is the sky blue, Russell?
It didn't grab me. But when we got into it,
Why do you hate fun?
It's not that I hate fun. I just question it sometimes. But no, I just had this question in my head of like, what exactly what's the point, sort of? And then as soon as the show started, it was like, oh, like this is a love letter to Airplane.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like this thing was done out of love and homage and admiration, and they tweaked it just enough.
Yeah, they added some updates to make it more current, and what they do is so genius,
It's so funny.
especially for the talking parts.
Yes.
That needs translation.
Yes.
And if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about, but that gets updated and it's so good.
Yeah, and the line, I speak something, brought down the house because it's so completely appropriate to today. And the references to other movies were thrown in, really goofy takes on the flashbacks and on the dance stuff from Airplane. Like they touch on all of the iconic moments, but they tweak it just enough that this is obviously done out of love and fun. And I just smiled through this entire damn thing.
Yeah. And I heard you speak up a couple times.
Oh yeah, I was saying the lines here and there.
But I was really, really bummed at one point.
Why?
Because in the beginning of the show, there's characters that are roaming around and they ask certain people questions.
Yes.
And they didn't ask me, and I was so ready, and I wanted to say, no thanks, I gave it the office.
Right.
But nobody in the crowd said it. And I looked at you and I was like, this isn't even an Airplane crowd. No one said it. Even the woman that was like reciting all the lines didn't say it.
Yeah.
And she brought out, gave him $1. It's like,
Yeah.
come on.
Yeah.
But next time. But
Oh.
this is something that I could see happening, like, once a month or once a week.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
everyone goes and it just
yeah.
has fun. And
Yeah, this is a goofy good time for sure. Absolutely. And another show that actually I think this could have been bigger and longer. Don't say it. don't
we're
say
talking
it.
about Airplane, and you
Yes.
expect me not to say it?
No.
Come on, surely you can't be serious.
Oh,
Really, nothing?
Stop calling me Shirley.
No, that's not the line.
Yes, I am being serious. And
Oh,
stop
that's
calling me
not the,
Shirley.
just stop. That's not the line anyway. Oh my god.
I've disappointed Mike once again. Moving on, sir.
What movie would you like to see have to be done this way?
Wow, I'd have to think about that. Because they actually did the one that would immediately come to mind they've already done, and that's Young Frankenstein. So, which I went to with a chip on my shoulder, and it won me over.
Oh, shocker.
Yeah.
You
it
went
was-
into something hating it. It's like,
Oh,
what?
no,
This is
boy.
stupid. Why are they doing this a movie?
Me? I'm usually the open-minded one. So, but no, Young Frankenstein, when I finally saw it, it did win me over because it is just so fun. But no, that's the movie I think that I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
All right, let us know.
Okay.
So then after that, we went over to see a show called The Birthing Pit.
Yeah.
What was that?
Wow, there's a lot going on in this show.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect it. The description is that it is a gothic romance during the time of the Revolutionary War. But there's so much more to this than that.
There really is. I mean,
This is, to me, this unfolded as a mystery.
yeah,
There's some political intrigue.
turns into horror.
It turns into horror, definitely. There's something about the couple. I wouldn't say that it's a romantic drama, but the relationship of the couple that you spend the first portion of the show with is so interesting in the fact that he's a man who's caught up in completely devoured by his work, and he's withholding information from his wife because he's trying to protect her from something, and that leads to the mystery and the unraveling information that I just referred to. But it's really interesting because as you get those conversations, you find out that the woman, the wife, is so frustrated in her relationship because she feels she can't communicate with her husband. So just the fact that these two people are not communicating unravels so much mischief and so much bad stuff that literally if two people had just stopped and said, wait a minute, I love you, let's be honest, this would be a very different show.
Well, it's funny because we just talked about Bonnie and Clyde.
Yeah.
While I was watching The Birthing Pit, there were so many similarities.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, obviously not
Yeah.
like, like that, but the fact that there was a frustrated woman that just wanted her husband's attention, or
Yeah.
her, not Bonnie and Clyde weren't married. Well,
Right.
they were, kind of, not really, but but
They had a thing.
They just wanted that attention. They just wanted affection. They just
Right.
wanted to know that they are loved.
Right.
And that happened in this.
Yeah, and
as
the
well.
references she makes about the man I met, the man I fell in love with. That's the guy I wish was here right now.
Yeah. And there was one part towards the end, or maybe it was the middle, where it's kind of like a flashback.
Yeah.
And and it's obviously open to interpretation, but it could be that he was reading something. It could have been a fever dream. It could have been his life flashing before his eyes. It could have been all of those things.
Absolutely. Could have been any of those. Yeah.
Man, that part, like just bam, 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 like one memory after another, oh, it killed me.
Yeah, because you're now seeing it through tragic perspective. And it's like, oh my God, look what they lost.
And when that scene ended, if that was the end of the show, I would have left wrecked.
Yeah.
And as an for like an emotional impact, you could end the show right there.
Oh, interesting.
And
That's
just
very interesting,
boom.
Mike. It would be a completely different show. It would be completely different. Yeah, like wow, that's a really interesting observation.
Yeah, because like as soon when the lights went down, when this is not a spoiler because you can probably guess that he's crying.
Yes.
But like when the lights go down on him sobbing, it was just like, oh my God, like okay, I'm done.
Nobody wins at that point.
Yeah.
But more happens.
Yes.
And that portion of the story, very dense, very interesting, open to huge amounts of interpretation.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't really quite... I don't want to say too much.
Yeah, it's kind of hard because
But
anything you say.
Well, when you said it goes into horror territory, what happens is really fascinating. Yeah, this is dark stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was very surprised by this because I don't think of gothic horror or gothic romance going into this darker territory usually.
I'm glad it did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. And yeah.
The lesson, that I took away from it is, you see what love can do to you and what you'll do for love.
Wow, what you do for love. Yeah.
Because what he does.
It's a bold choice.
Yeah.
Very bold choice. And another thing that I saw along with that was just the fact that even if you're trying to protect someone by being dishonest, dishonesty may not be the best choice.
Right. And that goes for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah, we kind of ended on a really downer note.
I mean, should we talk about something that's not down but is down?
Sure.
We've been playing Friday the 13th on PS4.
And I'm finding that I truly am a newbie to gaming.
Well, here's the fun thing. So basically every night after Fringe, we'll get home at like midnight or 1 in the morning. It's like, do you want to play? Like we'll text each other and we play. But it's important because it's horror and it's something that we're doing and it's technically involves Fringe. So
it's research.
It makes sense.
It's research.
Yeah.
Really.
So if you have a PS4 and you have Friday the 13th, which is newly released, let us know and we can get a game together. We can get a My Haunt Life game going.
Oh, that's very funny.
So message us what your gamer tag is or email us. Mine is xfedupx. Russell's is
Scary Russ
Lives. Add us and we'll play. And we'll kill each other. And it'll be awesome.
Which Mike is doing a lot to me these days.
And if Russell is Jason, we'll be able to start both cars and the boat and call Tommy and call the cops.
Okay, don't rub it in.
I'm just kidding. You're getting better.
I'm really slowly getting better. So, but I just like this it's funny because we've talked on other podcasts in the past about gaming to some degree, and I am very new to it. Dude, the controller does not feel natural in my hands. It just doesn't.
I'm not going to make a joke about what does feel natural in your hand, though.
But, it's just like I keep fumbling what to hit to strike. I keep fumbling how to pick up something. Yeah, I feel like I'm very, very awkward and fumbling.
It's practice. This is your first video game console, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
And this is literally the first game that I'm heavily playing with that controller because I've been playing Farpoint.
Right. Farpoint's incredible. That's if anyone else has PSVR and Farpoint, let's play co-op.
Oh, Farpoint is amazing. Just it's such a beautiful universe.
Yeah, like it gets to a point where I need to find more people to play with because whenever Russell and I play co-op, I can turn around and see his character like looking at the sky and then hearing him say, "This is just so beautiful." And like, we're supposed to be killing aliens. Come on.
And I was like, Mike, did you notice the characters of the architecture over here to the right? Did you like, isn't that amazing detail? And Mike is like, Russell, get over here.
You need to learn how to use that the precision rifle.
So, yeah, I haven't gotten there yet in the story because we keep playing co-op.
And Friday the 13th.
You keep distracting me. But no, I'm having a good time and I'm slowly but surely learning stuff.
Yeah.
So that's all good.
And if anyone else has any tips for Russell or games he should get, no, like I'm being serious because like
that's very kind.
Email him at russell@myhauntlife.com. Or
you can reach Mike at myhauntlife.com.
That might have been the smoothest way we've ever gotten into the contact info. But before we actually finish, we should point out that the Hollywood Fringe Festival is still going on for another week. And a lot of times, most of these shows will get extensions. So if you've heard about a show that you like from us talking about it, or you read something we wrote about, make sure to check the Fringe website. And chances are a show will be getting extended.
Yeah, they have not announced extensions yet, but I know that is their intention to extend some of them.
Right. We've heard some rumors about some, so make sure you check if there's something you're interested in. Keep an eye out for it. And you can find all of that information at hollywoodfringe.org. So have fun and see something. Experiment. That's what Fringe is about.
Definitely.
So that's it, man.
That's it.
Yeah, we gave you the contact info because I don't want to ruin that smoothness. So yeah, find us on the web at myhauntlife.com and all the social media like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at myhauntlife. You can leave us a text or voicemail on the Haunt line 515-HAUNT-LA. With that being said, I'm Mike.
And I'm Russell.
See ya.
Yes, Charlatan Secrets of the Victorian.
Take 2.
Charlatan Secrets of the Victorian.
Take 3.
Charlatan. Wait.
Take 4.
Charlatan Secrets of the Victorian Psychics. So that closed my night that night. That closed my evening that night. Wait, no.
Take 3.
That was the end of my evening.
All right, now we can really end.